to the debut edition of Off the Cuff here on the Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network. My name is Mike Hack. Thank you for listening and checking out the very first show. So real quick, just so we're not going in completely dry here, just an explanation of what the show is going to be all about and how it came together and what it's going to be like moving forward. So I host a panel debate game show on the network called Between the Links. And on the last episode of the year, rather than bring on a special guest and have the guys duke it out per usual, myself and the three regular panelists who appear on the show, we sort of chilled out and we talked. And, you know, it was like barbershop talk. It was like four guys sitting at the bar talking mixed martial arts. And that's essentially what this show is going to be like, with some different odds and ends and such, a lot of buy or sell questions and things like that. So joining me on this new adventure each and every week will be these three gentlemen. First, from Between the Links, Early Stoppage, and Fight Night Picks, we have Mr. Craig Allen, fresh off of his first Between the Links win of 2020. How are you, Craig?
Mike, straight up, I'm in the weirdest headspace I've ever been in. I went down a Vitas rabbit hole for about an hour. If anybody knows Vitas, that's weird stuff. So get into that Freaky Russians music and see where it leads you. But as far as MMA is concerned, big week and an awesome show with the Schmo yesterday. So if you didn't get a chance to check it out, please do so after this.
Absolutely. We have Mr. Loudmouth himself, the man, the myth, the legend, the co-host of the Not Safe for Work MMA podcast and MMA Yesterday, and the best damn realtor in MMA besides Ally Quinta. Kyle Steele, how are you?
I mean, I resent besides Ally Quinta, a little qualifier in the end of that, but all right, I guess I'll take it. Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And happy to have Drake Riggs on the show each and every week now. I've been trying to figure out a way to get Drake involved in something that I do on a regular basis, and this kind of fell on my lap and became a thing, and I had to reach out and make this happen. So Drake's a guy that's all over the place, and we're going to let Drake sort of let the folks know about the 500 sites that he currently contributes to. How are you, Drake?
I am good, man. I'm very exhausted at this exact moment. Almost missed the show, but I wouldn't miss it for the world. But yeah, spreading myself quite thin these days. Just joined my MMA News. I'm with The Scrap. I'm with Fansided. I'm with The Body Lock. I'm with RT Sport. And last but not least, South China Morning Post. And now here on Off the Cuff. So all over the place, trying to be MMA's version of Yes Man, if you remember that movie with Jim Carrey. So,
oh, nice. Well played. I actually just watched that with my wife about 3 or 4 days ago. Yeah, it was on Netflix. I'm very excited about that. But all right, gentlemen, UFC 246 coming up on Saturday night. We've been talking a lot about Conor McGregor and his return against Donald Cerrone. And one of the big talking points has been, and we talked about this on Between the Links last night, this doesn't feel like a typical Conor fight week. Like, where's the buzz? Where's the promotion? And to me, I feel like this is very reminiscent of UFC 202. Like, there wasn't a ton of buzz in the air on a Monday or a Tuesday. There were no real shenanigans. But once Conor got out there in front of the people and got a live microphone in his hand and a Monster Energy drink can in his hand, like, things changed very quickly and everything ramped up like tenfold. So, Craig, do you feel like that's going to happen this week? Like, the press are coming up on Wednesday, we got Media Day Thursday, the weigh-ins, all that stuff. Do you think that we're all going to feel a little bit differently about this one come Friday night at this time?
I mean, if anything, we're disappointed. And I know last night I was so excited about Grant Dawson and Chaz Skelly, and then today the fight falls out. I mean, there's still a lot of great fights on the card. You had a little bit of media there today and some different interviews. Of course, kind of Cowboy Cerrone really stole the show. But we didn't learn a whole lot. Wasn't fireworks. A lot of people aren't excited about this co-main event. They're more excited about the fight that's kicking off the pay-per-view, which was originally supposed to be the co-main event. Do I think it'll pick up? Yeah, probably, just because it's a Conor fight week. But other than that, the excitement seems to be fairly low.
I think the issue with the Conor fights now is that you're not going to get the Aldo moments. You're not going to, like, that. I don't think that's, I don't want to say ever going to happen again, but not in the near future. He realized his bargaining power. He realized what his everything he was doing was worth. I think, and until the UFC legitimately gives him some type of stake in the company, I don't think he's going to all out promote their brand like he did for so long. So the issue is just access. The only stuff Conor's doing is the seldom standing next to the cage interview, sitting down with Ariel, and that's pretty much going to be it. We have a press conference for this one, but again, I don't think you're going to have, to answer your question, I don't think the buzz is ever going, not ever. The buzz is not going to be back anytime soon. I don't think you're going to have a fight. The days of those could very well be long gone, but they're certainly long gone for this moment. So yeah, it's similar to 202, but I think it's going to be even worse, because there is going to be no pick me up.
Drake, to sort of add to what Kyle just said, like I actually feel like Conor's doing a little bit more media than I expect him to. Like I expected to sit down with Ariel. The Mac Life thing, not surprising, but I didn't really expect that to come, a week or two before the fight. Then he sat down with Severe MMA as well, kind of going back to the throwback, talking to Sean Sheehan and those guys. But like Kyle said, the one everyone's talking about is the conversation he had with Ariel Helwani. I mean, it covered a lot of ground, but it seemed like, to me, like he had this serial killer calmness to him. Like he was able to keep his composure, but I felt at times like, oh boy, like he's about to throw some gasoline on the fire. He's about to take things up a notch, but he never got to that point. So, and I believe his quote was, "Patience is a skill we must master in our lives." And everything was touched on. But did that interview, the clips from that conversation, did it get you more intrigued for Saturday night and Conor's return to action, or did it not move the needle at all for you?
No, it did nothing for me. I didn't watch very much, honestly, but from what I saw, it's just kind of like, kind of, and I don't want to say damage control necessarily, because he kind of already did that with that one interview he did with Ariel, a couple months back, whenever that was. But yeah, just I don't know. Yeah, it didn't really do much for me. I think though that a lot of the lack of buzz for this one, I think that it has to do with the fact that, well, the opponent, first of all, Cerrone's not really throwing anything back at him. Like you look at Diaz and you look at Khabib, even though Khabib wasn't really shit talking necessarily or talking trash, I mean, something to work with. There was something there. And with Cerrone, it's just kind of like, hey man, welcome back. Let's do this thing. Hey, I'll fight you. Whatever. I'm Cowboy. I'll fight anybody. And then also, I mean, I think it's just kind of he's drained all that energy from these past ones. I mean, think about all the exertion he used, like his emotions and everything, in going into those ones in those big fight weeks, and then along with all the outside stuff that's going on. I think he's just kind of maybe tired at the moment. And so Cowboy's perfect to kind of, ramp back up. And like Kyle said, I don't think, it's going to be hard to imagine at this stage getting that hype that we used to get, like with the Aldo thing, the Aldo fight. Just because of where he's at in his career, like, can he get any better? Can he do anything crazier than what he's already done? Maybe welterweight stuff, but that's really far-fetched in my opinion. So yeah, I don't know. It's really weird. I don't feel really anything. It still doesn't feel like a Conor fight week to me. I think it's because we haven't seen him do any of the Conor stuff we're used to seeing, really. It's just kind of, yeah, he's a guy who's coming back, big name, and he's fighting again. I don't know. It's nothing special for me at the moment.
Yeah, to me, like I said, this feels very UFC 202-like, and I don't think we're going to see a ton of foolishness at the press conference on Wednesday, and it reminds me of like the pro wrestling world, because two things are very powerful, but there are two totally different things when it came to like building confrontations in the wrestling ring. One was like the big pull apart when there's all sorts of shenanigans and the locker room empties and they pull everybody apart and, guys are breaking through and jumping over the ring, trying to get the other guy. And then the other way they did things was they didn't touch at all. They just kept building these things up with intrigue. They ran promos and they would get face to face, but they would never touch. They would never really say anything to each other. And that built up so much anticipation for some of these big matches in the pro wrestling world. And I feel like that's what the UFC's trying to do with this. Like you let these two guys finally get in the ring, or in this case, the octagon, and then we see what's good. Like we get the answers to the questions. We don't need to see monster energy drink cans flying. I don't need insults or religion or family talk. I'm down for some intensity. I'm down for a good eye-to-eye stare down and things of that nature, but the silly stuff, we don't need it for this fight. We don't. We don't need it.
Just to interject there a little bit, this has really reminded me more than anything about reminded me of UFC 207 with Rousey and Nunes. Everything's kind of on Conor's coming back, and with Ronda, it was the same thing there, just kind of the one-sided promotion, which is obvious. You get why they do it, but you're like, that's just, kind of messed up. And the fact that we never saw Ronda do any media, like whatsoever, before that fight. It's kind of the same thing. I mean, obviously Conor has done some, but they haven't gotten next to each other, like you were saying. Nunes and Rousey, they didn't get near each other until the weigh-ins, right? And it's going to be, well, aside from the press conference, it's just very similar is what I'm getting at with 207, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. And Kyle, we're going to go back to you here because Craig had mentioned it. Speaking of UFC 246, we did find out today that Grant Dawson is out of his fight with Chaz Skelly on Saturday for an undisclosed reason. I do not know the full story to this withdrawal, but for those who have asked and commented on Twitter, I can assure you this is not a USADA issue. This is not a PED issue. This is not a failed drug test issue. I don't know anything else, but it's not that. But people are pretty upset that this fight is off of this card, especially with the conversation we had in Between the Links yesterday that this card was sort of lacking in depth for the casual fan. So, in your opinion, Kyle, on a scale of 1 to 10, how big of a hit is losing the Dawson Skelly fight on Saturday?
I don't think it's a very big hit because the card wasn't very good to begin with. I mean, how much of a hit can it really take? That fight would have been fun to see, but we'll see it. I don't think it matters at all. There's one fight on this card. And it's very intentional on the UFC side, it feels like. And I don't know. I think they're doubling down on something that I don't know if this is going to work, man. Like, in the past, we've all kind of had this, and every single person sitting here, don't any of you lie. We have all, in some way, shape, or form, said if you put Conor McGregor in there with a baked potato, they're going to sell 1 million pay-per-views. I think we've all had that opinion of some sort. And I think the UFC is still holding on to that. And I don't know if that's still true. I mean, that some shine is away, certainly right now. Now, listen, what have you done for me yesterday, right? Or what have you done for me today, right, is the motto in MMA. If he goes in there and starches Cowboy, I don't care how predictable people think this fight is. I don't care if he should have fought Gaethje. None of that matters. If he goes in there and gets a highlight reel, the shine will come back. It's not ever going to be where it was, I don't think, but the shine is going to come back. I think it's going to backfire here. I don't think this card is going to do what the UFC thinks it's going to do. And I think that it's going to be like, uh-oh, what do we do now? And I think that's Conor's, and I know I'm going a little long here, but I think that's Conor's end game. So I think the reason why Conor is not doing all the media stuff, I don't think it's that he's tired. Again, I think it's calculated in his part. I don't think the UFC is trying to do anything in particular. I think Conor is like, listen, I know my value. I'm not going to pump up your product when I have no stake in it. I'm going to get my money regardless. I don't get really that much more money. I'll sell the pay-per-views. Could I sell more if I do this? Sure. But I would rather make more money by forcing your hand into doing what I want you to do. So I think when this card doesn't do what they think it's supposed to do, I think that's when they might start wanting to work with him. All right, we'll give you some stake in the company, but you got to go on a media tour, right? And then now we're going to pump those numbers back up, and the UFC is okay with it. So I think he's being calculated. I don't think the UFC is trying to do anything in particular.
So did we get a number from you from 1 to 10 on losing the Dawson Skelly fight?
Oh God, I don't know. It's a 3. It's a 3. It just doesn't matter. The card's shit. It doesn't matter.
Drake, what do you think? 1 to 10.
Okay, 1 to 10. I'll give you a number. Let's see. Man, I love Chaz Skelly fights, honestly. So it's always a bummer, no matter who he's going against when you lose out on that. So, I'll do a 5.5 for me, just because I really like Chaz, and Grant Dawson, great prospect as well. Yeah, it's a solid hit, I think. The card does have some depth. I mean, obviously not in name value necessarily compared to others, but stack cards selling, that's a myth. I'm gonna throw that out there. I've been really strong about that in the past. I mean, you don't need a stack card to have a big sell. It's all about the main event, and that's what UFC's banking on here, obviously. Yeah, solid hit for me. I'll do a 5.5, a little over, just because the half for Skelly.
I'll agree, but I think it has to be main and co-main. I think you got to at least have one more fight besides the main.
You don't like Holly Holm, Raquel Pennington? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything about that, but
I'm going to say something, and I don't mean this to gloat, but I'm 28 subscribers away on YouTube from 1,000. And the thing that I've learned from being in this position is the fact that I'm starting to understand the fights that people want to see. And the way that I did up my predictions for this week, I sorted them by view count. So the first one's McGregor, the second one's the Pettis Fahea fight, the third one's Nasrat Haqparast, Drew Dober. The least watched video that I have this week is Grant Dawson, Chaz Skelly. And that was before this fight fell out. Not a lot of people were excited for it. Not a lot of people in the casual space talked about it, which is pretty surprising to me because, like you said, the hardcores were excited about it. So losing that fight, to me, it takes a hit because Grant Dawson, I think, is one of those prospects that you definitely have to watch at 145 pounds. So I'm going to split the deck between yourself and Drake. I'll go with a 6, an even 6.
All right, we have more to discuss on UFC 246. We'll get to our buy or sell segment as well. We're going to take a short break, and we'll return in a matter of moments here on Off the Cuff. All right, welcome back to Off the Cuff. It is UFC 246 fight week, and we're going to get right back into this thing and start with Drake Riggs, because Drake, this is sort of in your wheelhouse, this question. We've talked about some of the bigger stories. We've talked about Conor, but, I want to talk about the under-the-radar stuff. We didn't really get to talk about this a whole lot in between the links. I love the under-the-radar stuff. I love giving love to fights and storylines that aren't getting the love heading into these big fight weeks. So, what's the under-the-radar fight at UFC 246 that is just not getting that love at all? And what's sort of getting you intrigued that you already have tweets ready for after some craziness goes down on Saturday night?
You're talking about my tweet drafts now? You're talking about all those? My preparation? No. Well, I feel like there's something that I am missing because I can't remember for the life of me the beginning of the card, the early prelims. But I will say that for me, it is Modafferi and Barber, and just for simply the fact that Roxy, how big of an underdog she is, just blows me away. I mean, that's such a. I mean, people are obviously talking about Macy Barber and everything, but not as much, I think, as if this fight was placed on like a fight night. Then it'd be like kind of the bigger story of the week. Obviously, not going to get close to that on this card or anything, but yeah, maybe not the most under the radar thing, but for me, this is obviously Macy's biggest fight yet, her toughest opponent yet, most experienced opponent, just all those things. This is really to see if she's ready for the top 10 of the division at flyweight. And Roxy, man, just can never get that respect. It's like put her against anybody, even though she's taken out the Shevchenkos, Antonina Shevchenko, just put all the prospects in front of her. She's knocked them down for the most part since, her big resurgence a couple years ago. This will be a tough one for her, but it will be a tough one for Macy as well. That betting line is just absolutely that's just so crazy to me. Definitely, throw something down on her if you're a betting person.
I would agree. I'm going super under the radar here, and maybe just because I've talked to both guys, I'm going with Ode Osborne versus Brian Kelleher, because when you have a formula like this is a perfect formula for a fight. 'Cause you have two exciting guys. One's making his UFC debut, good amount of hype coming off the Contender Series, right? And then you have another guy who came into the UFC. He won 3 out of his first 4, was definitely becoming a fan favorite, but now he's on a little bit of on a slide right now. He's lost 2 in a row. He got finished in both of those fights. Montel Jackson finished him real quick over a year ago. So he's coming back after taking all of 2019 off. He's healthy. He feels like he has his back against the wall. This is the last fight of his UFC contract. So I think that's a great fight to kick this entire card off and really set the table. Craig, what's your under-the-radar fight that is just not getting talked about at all, in your opinion?
It's the second least watched video. Alexa Kamer and Justin Ledet. Sorry, Kyle. I know we talked about it before the show. Reason being, every now and again, I see fight odds that don't make any sense at all. Let's go back. Edmund Shabazian, when he fought Brad Tavares, was a slight favorite. That one made absolutely no sense. And then on that card, or shortly after, it was on that card. Jairzinho Rozenstruik in his fight there, he was just a slight favorite. In this fight, Alexa Kamer is between a -120, -115 favorite. Holy smokes. I mean, Justin Ledet has been a stepping stone in his last 2 fights with Rakic and Walker, and he had a power and speed advantage at 265 pounds, and since he's moved to 205 pounds, he's been, a punching bag, really. So I want to see what comes of him late, I guess, early 2020. We haven't seen him since early 2019. And for Kamer, can he continue to just knock people out? And if he can, wow. I mean, this could be the next Walker, the next Rakic, the next contender possibly. You never know at 205, which is great to see.
Yeah, 5-0, making his UFC debut on a huge card on Saturday night. Kyle Steele.
Amateur fights, too.
That's right. He hasn't really been that active either. Like, he turned pro in 2017. He's only had 5 fights. He was 4-0 in the Contender Series, and he got rocked pretty good by Fabio Cherant in that fight before landing that flying knee from hell that turned everything around, and now he gets his opportunity against Justin Ledet. Kyle Steele, under the radar fight on Saturday, the one that no one's talking about, but has you all sorts of giddy.
I mean, I was gonna say Justin Ledet, Alexa Kamer, so I'm just gonna go with that one because I'll piggyback a little bit off what Craig was saying with the odds. I think the odds make sense. Ledet. So let's go to his 2 losses, right? Racic is just an app. It's not right. Well, either way, I can't pronounce anybody's names ever.
We know what you mean.
Stylistic nightmare. I mean, just it couldn't be any worse than a stylistic matchup for someone with Ledet's skill set. And then Johnny Walker, the fight lasted 15 seconds. I mean, what can you really glean from that? And it was a hook kick. Because I mean, it was crazy, right? Like it lasted 15 seconds. There's nothing to take away from that. So it wasn't even a punching bag because I think he got hit once. You know what I mean? It was one hit and he was done. So not much to glean from it. In order for Kamer to win, he's got to do exactly what Ledet is good at. Now, is he better at it? I don't know. We'll see. I mean, he certainly seems to be younger, sleeker, more athletic, so on. And I do agree that he had a strength and speed a speed advantage, certainly. That heavyweight that he's lost, coming down to 205. I prefer him at 205. I think he could probably even go down a little bit more, and that's where he's going to have. If he can make it to 185, which he can because he's still a little bit flabby, I think if he makes it to 185, I think that's where he's really going to shine because he's the 80-inch reach. He's real. I mean, he's just big. I think he could make it work there. 205 just seems to be like a weird middle ground that, like, we'll see. I mean, if he loses this fight, he's going to get kicked out of the UFC, I imagine. But no, I think I like this fight because most people who know much about the sport are going to just completely this is a foregone conclusion. Ledet's either losing or getting knocked out, right? He's either losing badly or getting knocked out, and there's really no other way around it. And I don't know, man. Let's watch because I don't know. Kamer has won all 5 of his fights, I believe, by knockout. So he has to go into Ledet's wheelhouse. Ledet is a very, very good boxer. A very good boxer. You got to go into his wheelhouse to make it happen. So I don't know, man. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
I think it's a good first test.
That's why I like that one. That's why I like that fight.
I think it's a good first fight for Kamer. I think it's a good litmus test for him to see where he goes. I mean, he's with a good team with Strong Style. He trains with Stipe Miocic and Jeff Hughes and guys like that. So, he's obviously with a good camp. He's nervous heading into his UFC debut, admittedly. He feels like Justin Ledet's a really good test for him to kick off his UFC career. So that's a really good one, too. So there's a lot of really good under-the-radar fights. Like, the casual fan doesn't really understand, but hopefully they watch this entire card on Saturday and they get to see some of these up-and-coming prospects that are getting into the UFC, like the Ode Osborns and the Alexa Kamers and, guys like Justin Ledet who are really tough and scrappy. But, Craig, I want to do a little compare and contrast as we move forward because I would be remiss if we didn't talk about this, and I wanted to talk about this last night in Between the Links because, as you probably watched or seen or heard at this point, Anthony Pettis had quite a story when it came to moments before his fight with Nate Diaz last summer where USADA wanted him to take a drug test on fight night, which is pretty standard stuff. So he pees in the cup, and they weren't able to read his sample because, he rehydrated. It was a little blurry or whatnot. So they're like, nah, man, you got to do it again. So he does it again, and then he cuts his hand on the pee cup. He cuts his hand on the pee cup, cuts it, his thumb more specifically, which led to the cut needing to be closed and glued. He couldn't warm up before the fight. Just not an ideal situation. And now he's suing freaking USADA ahead of his fight against Diego Ferreira on Saturday at UFC 246. So I ask you, Craig, what story is more unbelievable heading into Saturday? This Anthony Pettis story or that Conor McGregor is making $80 million to fight Donald Cerrone?
If I had a nickel for every time I cut my hand on a pea cup, I'd be a millionaire. I'd even be an 80 millionaire. The $80 million thing's ridiculous. What are they giving Conor McGregor? Every single dollar that they make on that stupid T-shirt? Who buys Reesigs anymore? It's not 2011. It's the dumbest ad I've ever seen in my life. The $80 million thing's ridiculous. And I can't remember. Please refresh my memory. Who was the first person to say Anthony Pettis to Bellator on Loudmouth MMA? Was it Keith?
Because
I'm taking that narrative and running with it.
Yeah?
I'm serious. I really do think Diego Ferreira wins that fight, either by decision or TKO. Pettis is susceptible to getting finished. And it's not that he's not a tough guy. It's just the way that it's gone lately. Why not have Sergio and Anthony over in Bellator, running shop? Benson Henderson's there. Have them fight. Just make it happen. And then the USADA stuff's just in the background.
Kyle, what story is more unbelievable to you? The Pettis story or McGregor's money he's going to make from this fight with Donald Cerrone?
I mean, I've peed in a cup quite a bit. And I'm just trying to imagine like what happened. Like I don't. How does that happen? Was the cup? It's like it's jagged. Like that just seems that. Why would you pee into that? I don't know. They're both pretty wild, but I would say what is more if you take those stories in a vacuum, what's more unbelievable? I guess Conor making $80 million. My only guess is he's like factoring in like advertising. Like are they going to have his whiskey logo in the cage or something? And like that probably cost a bunch of money. Maybe they'll air ads or something, and that'll cost a bunch of money. And he's like including that. Yeah, I don't know. That seems like a ridiculous number that I don't think he's going to get anywhere near. But yeah, I want to see these cups that USADA like. That sounds about. How do you cut your hand on a non-broken piece of glass? I don't understand. Or is it plastic? I don't know. I want to see these cups. So let's see these cups. Can we start the hashtag? Let's see these cups.
They're out there.
Yes. Simply put, I think McGregor making $80 million is more of an unbelievable tale. But again, like Kyle said, could be advertising, could be, sponsorship from such and such. I know the T-shirt ain't selling $80 million unless Craig buys, 40 million of them, which he might. I know he digs that T-shirt.
I guess this is a bad time to say that I bought the network T-shirt. So just I didn't realize you guys wouldn't like it. So I guess that's the egg's on my face. So
I'm just waiting for the next cameo, Kyle. I'm excited for who gets the next cameo.
Listen, it might be Drake. I don't know. We'll see.
Welcome to the network, buddy.
I'll see.
So that's my take on it. But I mean, this Pettis thing is unbelievable. I am no lawyer, but I don't know how he wins this case against USADA because, again, I wasn't there and I don't know what the freaking cup looks like. Do they put barbed wire on the cup? Do they hide it? Is this ECW? I don't know. Drake, what's your take on this? What's more unbelievable to you?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of got to agree with you guys, but I think Kyle makes good points about, McGregor's and the whiskey and all this sponsorship type stuff. But, yeah, I mean, come on, these are fighters. I mean, no disrespect to Anthony Pettis, but not the smartest people. They'll find ways to hurt themselves. We've seen it before. Pani Kiansachi knocked her tooth out by pulling her glove strap or whatever on The Ultimate Fighter. It happens, These things happen, okay? The funniest thing, though, about the whole Pettis thing to me is the fact that he's suing USADA. And, if you guys follow Dim Space on Twitter, Dave Marsden, the guy when it comes to USADA and all that stuff. The cups aren't USADA's cups, right? They get the cups from somebody else. So this was his tweet, his comparison. Suing USADA is like suing Walmart because the TV you bought blew up in your face. The Samsung TV blew up in your face. It's just he can't win. He can't win it because they're not USADA's, right? I mean, you're suing the wrong people. So that's the funniest part of the whole thing. Like, dude, come on. So, yeah, that's funny, but more unbelievable situation. Yeah, Conor getting that much is kind of hard to believe. But yeah, I totally believe the nonsense going on with Pettis. I mean, come on. Yeah. And the pictures of the cups are out there too. I think they're plastic. So
are they the picture? I want to see those pictures.
Yeah, maybe it's like a hard plastic. I don't know. I'll find it.
Super hard plastic with that.
Yeah.
Super hard. But it's going to be hard to top what we just discussed here on the program. But we're going to try with the buy or sell portion of the show. After we take a short break, we'll be right back in a few moments here on Off the Cuff. And we're back on the debut episode of Off the Cuff. Thank you all so much for listening to our debut episode. We're trying to work out the kinks here, but let's go to the segment of the show that I'm really looking forward to, really, that was the essence of putting the show together, the buy-sell portion of Off the Cuff. Some questions that I've gotten via email, I've seen on Twitter. You could send yours along to my email, which I still can't believe it is this email address, sflcpodcast@gmail.com. I just haven't changed it. It's just too much to change right now. Or you could do it via the Twitter at MikeHeck_JR. But we got some very interesting questions here. Kyle Steele, you are Mr. Loudmouth. We're going to start things off with you. Buy or sell, if Holly Holm is unsuccessful on Saturday against Raquel Pennington, That'll be it. She will no longer fight in the UFC.
If she loses to Raquel Pennington, her next fight is for a title. I can all but guarantee it. The Holly Holm, Fred and I went on it the other day on the Not Safe for Work podcast. We went through her record. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, the amount of chances she's been given for that kick has just. I mean, it's crazy. How much more blood can we squeeze out of this thing? I don't know, man. I think win or lose, I think it's completely irrelevant. I think she, as soon as they need a spot for a title fight, they'll plop her back in there. I don't think the UFC gives a shit. They are just, I don't know, man. Because casuals, the only difference between this card is that it has such a big name at the top, so they're assuming it's going to get to a lot of people. And the only reason why they've kept her as long as they have is because of the casual reach. So if she loses in front of listen, there's people who are casual fans. They may not even know that Holly Holm's lost any fights outside of title fights. You know what I mean? They may not even know that. So this may be the first non-title fight they're seeing her lose in. So, and it's on a big stage, supposedly. So, I don't know. Maybe the fact that she's on the McGregor card means if she loses, then that is just going to be gone. But I don't know, man. The UFC does weird things, and if they think that they can get some more blood out of that, then they're going to keep doing it.
So you're selling that this will be her last fight if she loses?
Oh, absolutely. I'm selling that bad boy. I don't buy it, man. The UFC's goofy.
So this is going to be somewhat of a bold prediction, I suppose, but I'm going to buy it simply because I don't think they're going to cut her. I don't think that's ever going to happen, but I think that she'll retire because, I mean, just think about as long as Nunes is around right now, they just can't. They can't possibly give her another one, man. Come on. No, you can't do it. She's the champion of both divisions, got knocked out in the first round with her own move. You just can't do it, man. And finally, contenders are emerging, and you got Aldana is up there next in line, in my opinion. Then you got Aspen Ladd, who's coming back. She's fighting Pena next, who's back also. If Pena wins, it's right there. So there's three people. Even Vieira, she's still above Holm, in my opinion. There's people now that can fill these title contender roles. You don't need to throw Holly in there if she just gets one win, even though she's lost so many before that and all that. So I think that if she loses here, then the climb back to a title shot is just way too long. Her best hope is to get a win and then assume that Nunes retires later this year, which I also think is going to happen. But that's not going to happen until after Holm retires first if she loses this fight. So I don't know. I just think the road is way too long at this point. And she's what? She's like 37, 39, that range now. So getting closer. She's been fighting her whole life, essentially. So, yeah, I don't think she's ever getting cut. But with a loss, I think that could very well be it for Holly.
I have to buy this just because, if she loses, who else is there to fight that's compelling at all? The Pennington fight is somewhat compelling only because a lot of people thought Pennington beat her the first time around. So it makes sense for Pennington to get this one back before Holm retires. I get that. I understand why they made this fight. But other than that, what else makes sense? Are we really going to put her in there with an Aspen Ladd? No. Are we going to put her in with an Aldana? No. We're going to put her in there with a Caitlin Vieira? No. What's the point? What is the point of keeping her around? She's still a star. Her name means a lot. You can put her on the analyst desk. She's not bad to look at, and she's pretty intelligent. She's gone through a lot of crap over the last couple of years. She had a divorce, which has been out there for a while. She's been through a lot of stuff. So, I mean, if she wants to chill out and work out and teach a Jackson Wink and, be an analyst and dance with Michelle Watterson, all power to you. Go do that. Go do that. I'd rather see you do that and do those Instagram videos than get in there and fight and get head kicked. I don't want to see that. Craig, what do you think? Buy or sell? If Holly Holm loses, she's done.
Yeah, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to go with Drake's theory here. As far as my hot take sunglasses, which you can't see in the audio version, but I will say good fight for her if she does lose, if she still wants to fight. I'm talking triple threat. I'm talking somebody that lost to Chris Cyborg, Aspen Ladd, and the Elbow Queen, Lena Landsberg. Give her Tanya Evinger. That's a fun fight at 135. Former Invicta champ fight. Champ. Why is this fight so compelling? I'm being dead honest. I didn't talk about this week. Who's to say that if Raquel Pennington loses, she's still around in the UFC? I mean, really, a loss to Nunes, a loss to Durandamy, a split decision win over Aldana, who's looked good lately. And then before that, between the Miesha Tate fight and the Nunes fight, years. And the Miesha Tate fight, did she have one foot out the door? It wasn't an overly compelling fight. It was a long time ago. I know she was a former champ. This fight is a co-main event. It's so weird that they moved Pettis and Fahea to the opening fight on the pay-per-view. I guess it gets people excited. That should have been the co-main event. And that's not to say women's bantamweight, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of people out there on Reddit that say that. I like this fight. It just doesn't make sense as a co-main event, and I don't see it as all that compelling. I think if Holm loses, she retires. She's 38, and there's lots of different options out there for her.
My first thought when
I
this
want
fight
to throw this in real
go
quick. Can I throw this in real quick? Holm already, she dodged a bullet by getting out of that Aspen Ladd fight. If we remember, she left that one to get with the Nunes one. So, hey, I mean, there's already, she knows just getting that out of there.
I'll also say, and I don't know if Mike was about to say this, but when you said triple threat, I thought for sure you were about to say she's going to fight Henry Cejudo. And I was like, all right.
No,
I'm
I was
down.
definitely not saying that.
I
wouldn't
I'm
be
down.
surprised.
That is a hot take, Craig. I see why you put the sunglasses on.
I was going to say that the first thought I had when I heard that Holm and Pennington became the co-main event was, this is Holly Holm's last fight. Like, win or lose. That was my first thought. I was like, they're putting her in the spot. They're putting her in the spot to have that one last fight and have her moment, win or lose. She's got to put her gloves down.
That's a good call, Mike. That's a good call. I think you might be right. That's a good call.
So, yeah, there we go. But we'll see what happens. It's a crazy sport. Maybe, like you said, maybe Holly loses and gets a title shot.
Man, look at that. See, I got sucked into it.
Look what we did.
I was like, Mike, that was such a good thing. And then I was like, oh, wait, no. The UFC is just stupid. And again, they think that they can sell the Holly Holm name because she head kicked Ronda Rousey 17 years ago. I'm back to disagreeing hardcore.
But Dana,
they have her at the co-main for that only reason.
I mean, it is Dana White, and not everything he says is gospel, but he has come out and said that conversation needs to happen, that she needs to start thinking about walking away. But we move ahead to something we don't like to talk about, but it's a question I've gotten quite a bit of. Drake, buy or sell, we will see at least one boxing versus MMA crossover fight in 2020. I'm not talking like Mike Tyson fighting, 1 in 45 Davidson Baker somewhere. I'm talking a UFC or a Bellator fighter with some sort of name, taking out a boxer with some sort of name, either in a cage or in a ring. Buy or sell, we see at least one of those this year.
Oh, poor Davidson had to throw him under the bus like that, man. Man, I hate this, but I have to buy it. I think that we will get another one. As much as I don't care for it at all, we all know what's going to happen. No matter who it is, I don't care. Whichever sport it is, the person whose sport that is, they win. So, I think we'll see it though. Clarissa Shields is all about that now. It seems like trying to fight MMA fighters, whether in MMA or boxing. And I can see that happening. I don't know if it would be a UFC fighter, though. I think the Bellator could beat him to that situation. And then Conor, I think that if he does win here against Cerrone, what they're talking about Pacquiao now, and that was kind of rumored even months ago, which that's gross too. But I think that if Cerrone loses, no, that's not happening. But a much better chance if he wins, if Cowboy wins. No, not Cowboy. McGregor. I'm getting all mixed up here. McGregor wins, then much better chance of him having another boxing match this year against Pacquiao, potentially, whatever. And then, Shields, like I was saying. So I think that those are the two most likely candidates to have something go on there. Probably more so with Shields, since she seems kind of like she's running out of opponents or something. I don't follow boxing very much. But, I feel like we got to buy it at this point.
I think we will see Shields fight in MMA. I don't think it's going to be against anybody good. I think she's going to fight like an 0-7 fighter and build her way up. Like I talked to her. She's going to be training with John Jones very soon. I think like the end of next month, she's going to be heading out to Albuquerque and starting her training. But like she knows the Nunes fight would be very interesting. She wants that fight, but she's a realist too. She's not going to take that fight right now because Amanda Nunes will crush her if they fight in an octagon right now. So, get some reps in, get some wins under your belt, build some confidence, and then Hopefully we never see it, but then maybe we can have that discussion. But I think we see Shields fight. I don't think it's against anybody good. So technically I'm going to sell this. But if it's going to happen, I think Masvidal is going to get that opportunity. That's what I think. I think Masvidal is going to become an even bigger star. He's going to play his cards right. And I think he's going to get an opportunity. I think that phone's going to ring, and I think he's going to get a chance if it happens at all. But I'm going to sell it. But if it does happen, I'm going to say Masvidal is going to get some sort of high-level fight in that aspect in the boxing ring. But Craig, go ahead and ruin this.
All right, I will ruin this, Mike. If you want to bring a boxer in MMA, you do it in 2019. You have them fight somebody who's 3-3 named Shannon Gogari, and you make sure that boxing's in their nickname. I'm talking about the lady of boxing, Ava Knight, and coming up this spring, she's going to be taking on another 3-3 fighter, Emily Geddes. So boxing and MMA, it's going to happen. I'm going to buy it. Sorry, Mike.
Isn't Ava Knight fighting next week, or am I totally off on that?
Fighting on the 25th. You would be correct.
Okay.
Consider that spring in certain climates, maybe.
Yes. Sorry, I'm still tired.
Craig's awful. Why would you? I mean, come on now. I mean, does that really do it though? Didn't I preface that enough by saying like I'm not? Sorry,
Mike.
All right, Kyle.
Okay. No. You know what? You want me to go big names, big fish? I think your assessment of Claressa Shields, maybe she takes a fight in like an LFA or a smaller promotion, regional promotion. They make it a big deal. Maybe they have Dana White's looking for a fight, and he's looking for a giant fish that everybody already knows about. Or they have her on Contender Series, but they bring in somebody who has the most padded record. They do something like that. I could see that happening. So I'll buy it in that aspect too.
PFL is absolutely out of their minds if they don't go all in on Claressa Shields. Not that she's going to fight Kayla Harrison, because that's fight probably not going to happen because they're good friends. But if you're being a professional organization and you have 2 Olympic gold medalists on your roster, that ramps things up a little bit.
Well, just tell Tony Robbins to shake his hands real quick, and he'll get money out of some random tree and hand it over to the PFL. Maybe then they can sign.
Kyle, buy or sell that?
So is the question MMA in boxing or boxing in MMA, or are you saying specifically boxing coming to MMA?
Either or, but it's got to be like
either or.
It's got to be like a legit thing. Like it can't be like It can't be like Conor going over and fighting Peter McNeely.
Yeah. So if it's either or, then I think buy. I think what's most likely is that you have an MMA fighter going over into boxing, a la a Jorge Masvidal. Or maybe even a Conor Pacquiao or Conor Mayweather. I think that is absolutely in the realm of possibilities, especially if a Conor gets a win. Conor gets a win against Cowboy here. So I think that's more likely. Although, I mean, I guess the most likely seems to be Claressa Shields. I mean, that seems to be the most likely scenario. And I think in Bellator is where I think it's most likely to happen. So yeah, I'll buy that. I don't want to really see it, but yeah, I'll buy it.
Craig, Abe Kawa said he expects his client Carlos Condit to fight again in return in 2020. He said he suffered a common injury, which forced him out of the fight against Mickey Gall. I know Carlos went on Instagram and said it was a detached retina, but Abe says he's doing fine, and he will fight again in 2020. Buy or sell your excitement to see Carlos Condit fight again?
I don't want to see the natural born killer fight again, and it's a shame that the most common of injuries occurred to him. I mean, when you get that knock on your door at 5 o'clock and you saw us there with the P cup, you got to watch out for those cuts on your hands, man. Poor Carlos Condit. Another one bites the dust. Do I want to see him fight again? I mean, he's lost, 5 in a row? No. Take a break, bud.
Did anybody want to see the Mickey Gall fight? I mean,
I did.
That was already before. Why?
I was fascinated
the novelty,
by it.
Just pure novelty.
And the card it was on.
Did you want to see? Here's my question: did you want to see the Mickey Gall Carlos Condit fight for any reason other than novelty? No.
Fascination.
That's not a legitimate fight. That's not. You better take those sunglasses off, Craig. That was not a legitimate fight. Nobody wanted to see that shit outside of just pure novelty. So the answer is, I don't know if we're still doing buy sell, but no, I do not want to see Carlos Condit fight again.
Drake,
and I do buy that he'll fight again, but I don't want to see it.
Yeah, man, it just makes me so sad. These kind of things, they just. Like I'm sad just thinking about it. I really, really don't want that to happen at all. Like there's I would rather see Brock Lesnar come back, and I really don't want to see that happen. So yeah, please no, I don't want that. I don't have much more to say about it.
Yeah. I'll buy if it's done right. Like, you can't put him out there against a killer at 170. Like, you can't put him against Jeff Neal. Like, that's just, don't do that. Put him against, if you do like a Matt Brown fight, and Matt Brown's a killer
the
too.
only one.
I'm
That's
okay
the
with that
only
one. Or if you did like, if you somehow could rattle up Nick Diaz or something. I'd be
Or
cool
Ryan
with that.
Hall.
Oh,
Dan
jeez.
Hardy.
Ryan Hall, I'd be all right with too. If Ryan Hall, let's go to 170 fight Carlos Condit. I'm fine with that one as well.
I'm down. I'm real down.
I'm down for that. I'm buying on that preface, but if I go on Twitter and I see Natural Born Killers fighting Jeff Neal, I'm going to lose my mind, and I'm probably going to shed a couple of tears. A couple more before we wrap up here. Kyle, buy or sell that Kamaru Usman is playing this Jorge Masvidal situation up the right way, saying things like, who? Or, he hasn't earned a title shot. Buy or sell that Kamaru's playing this correctly.
Again, it doesn't tickle my fancy, but buy in that it seems to be a common way of hyping fights. I mean, he's not the first person to go that route. He won't be the last. He's not the only person doing it right now. So, it just seems to be a kind of mundane way of going about promoting fights. It seems to work. Again, it doesn't excite me, but that's not. Am I out on an island here that thinks that the best possible fight for Jorge Masvidal is Leon Edwards? Like, that fight should have already happened by now. It's a fascinating fight. Like, Leon Edwards hasn't lost yet. I mean, he's about to fight. Who's he fighting? I don't remember. Leon Edwards is about to fight
Tyron
somebody.
Woodley.
It's not done yet, though. Not done yet.
That'll happen.
He's about to fight Woodley.
I don't know, man. We're getting close.
They shouldn't make it happen. Have him fight Masvidal. That while the heat, dude, eventually the heat is going to wear away. They should have struck when the iron was hot anyway. It should have already happened by now. But I mean, whatever, everything worked out fine. But that fight's got to happen. That fight's got to happen. Usman can sit on ice for a second. It's not a big deal. Listen, I mean, the biggest threat, Masvidal really hasn't earned his way to that. At least not really. Like, I think he needs one more fight. Just because he's had some spectacular things happen, that's not the same thing as like kind of clearing. Like, Colby Covington cleared his way through a division and got himself into the position he's in. Masvidal hasn't had the same trajectory. So he's just, but Masvidal's had bigger fights and bigger things happen in those fights. Nothing bigger than like what happened in the Askren fight. You know what I mean? Nothing Covington's done his entire career even comes close to that. So, and that's the reason why Masvidal's in the position he's in. It's if that doesn't happen, he's not even in the discussion for a title fight. If he beats Askren at the end of the first instead of 5 seconds in, I don't think we're having the conversation of him fighting for a title. So, I would like to see him fight Leon Edwards, and then Usman can kind of, I don't know. I guess there's something else we can give him.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this has kind of been what Kamaru's done since he was champion, right? He kind of did with Colby, like, yeah, you don't really deserve it yet. We're like, yeah, he does. Come on, man. So that's just kind of, what he's been doing. As for if he should get it, yeah, I mean, I think it's between Edwards and Masvidal. I would like to see Masvidal versus Edwards and Woodley versus Covington, because we missed out on that one. Man, I was so excited to see Woodley and Covington
100%
end up going at it. But then the problem with that, though, is then Usman's just kind of left out there, with nobody to fight, which that's the only thing that I don't like is him being inactive there. But I don't know if he's got any injuries or anything from, the crazy fight with Covington. But, I think he's just kind of doing what he's got to do to answer the original question. Just, yeah, man, that's just all he's got. He's not much of a trash talker or anything like that. But, as for what I would do as for his next fight, Masvidal or Edwards just seems super obvious, unless GSP comes back.
Oh, God, don't even start with that. I'm selling this. I think Usman's handling this terribly. Masvidal is like the next big thing right now. I mean, he's, fighter of the year. Like, he's the guy in your division that'll sell you the most tickets, like, outside of a Conor McGregor. And it makes no sense for Conor to fight Kamaru Usman right now. It just doesn't. Although if Conor wanted to wheel that into reality, he probably could with like a 30-second knockout of Donald Cerrone on Saturday. But if I'm Kamaru Usman, I'm going after Jorge Masvidal with everything I have because, let's be honest, stylistically, Kamaru Usman should win that fight pretty easily, but you never know. That's just the way I would look at it. I mean, obviously Masvidal's waiting for what happens on Saturday because if Conor wins, Masvidal's going to go all in on that fight. He's not going to be looking for the Usman fight right now. Then you could do Edwards versus Usman for the belt. I'm cool with that. Do Woodley Covington, like that, and then do Masvidal Conor McGregor. I like that as well. So maybe you have your thing set. I don't think we're going to get an answer to any of those questions till Saturday or Saturday night and maybe Sunday morning, but that's kind of where we're at right now. But I think Kamaru should be all in on Masvidal right now. I'm pushing for that fight because I think Leon Edwards is a tougher fight stylistically for Kamaru Usman than Masvidal is right now. Craig, what do you think?
I'm going to go with the left field, and then I'll come back to home plate. Left field, if I had a magic wand in MMA, there's two things that I would get rid of. First thing, Joe Schilling smoking cigarettes. Stop smoking cigarettes. Give it your all. I want to see you fresh and healthy at 185 pounds. That's number one. Number two, DAZN showing year-and-a-half-old clips of people looking through their Instagram. I don't like to do it on a bus, on a plane, at home. I don't want to do it when I'm listening to a Gregorian chant popped up a little bit. Number three, Mike, the blueprint's already at 205 pounds. John Jones does this all the time. Nope, I don't know Dominic Reyes. And lo and behold, in February, we're going to get a fight with Dominic Reyes and John Jones. So Kamaru Usman doing this, I get it. You can either go all in or all out. But when you're all out, you're really in anyway. So I think the fight will happen with Masvidal. I'd sooner see a fight with Leon Edwards and Masvidal. I like that. Leon Edwards' fight against Gunnar Nelson totally sold me on Leon Edwards. If there were any doubts, that erased them all. The guy has a complete skill set. He's not just a boxer anymore. He deserves it all. And if he gets a Woodley fight, if it does actually materialize, that would be a great shot for him, especially at home in England. But am I buying Masvidal and Usman? Am I buying what's the going narrative? Yeah, I am. I like it.
You know what's crazy? If Leon Edwards just waited to say something to Masvidal on Twitter like an hour later, as opposed to interrupting his interview with Laura Sanko, they probably would have fought already.
Right.
They would have fought already. They would have fought last year. Crazy.
It's a weird one.
Last one we're going to do before we wrap up here. Drake, we're going to start with you. Buy or sell that anybody on Saturday's UFC 246 card, any of them, will fight for and maybe even win a UFC title in 2020?
That's a tough one. And win. Fight and win, or just fight?
Just fight for the belt.
Just fight for the belt. Man, that's a tough one. I'm gonna say buy. Because they can figure out a way to give Conor a title shot, even if he loses. They can find a way to do that. Cerrone probably not going to happen, win or lose. He'll get beat by somebody else before he gets that chance. And then, I think that they're going to do everything they can to fast track Macy Barber because she wants to be the youngest champion. So if she wins, she could very well get the title shot right after that, even though it might not technically make sense. I mean, you'd have to look at the rankings and everything. Ferreira, that's a stretch if he wins. He's climbing the ladder still. I think somebody will fight for it. Win it. I don't think anyone's going to win, but I'll buy that. So somebody's going to end up getting a title shot from this card for sure. And Holly Holm is still out there, so
that's right. We already know Kyle's answer to that question. I'm buying it. I think someone will get there. I hope to see some of these under the radar guys. I'll tell you a guy that could sneak in there if he wins a couple of fights. Maurice Green could sneak in there and fight for the heavyweight title this year. He could.
Oh, that's a bold one.
He could. Listen,
what?
Listen. You can name 8 other fights that deserve to be on this main card more than Maurice Green versus Alexei Oleinik does. There's a reason why it's on the main card, Craig Allen. They're pushing Maurice Green. They're trying. Who else is there? You got Francis Ngannou. You got Stipe. You got DC. Okay? You got Jairzinho.
Do you want me to let you burn out everybody?
That's 4 guys that are not on giant winning streaks.
Cyril Gane. You got Rosenstruck. You got Curtis Blades. You have all sorts of contenders right now.
Okay.
You're going to throw Maurice Green at me with a win over Alexei Oleinik? You're selling me wolf.
That's a big if too.
Did I say he's going to fight for the belt in April? No, I didn't say that.
Ain't no mountain high enough.
If Maurice Green knocks out Alexei Oleinik, knocks out his next opponent, and knocks out his next opponent in the first round, you're telling me he's not sniffing that conversation?
What if Maurice Green Ezekiel chokes Oleinik?
Then he's the champion automatically.
That's it. They just give him a belt. He just gets done. They go, here's the belt.
This is not me saying that Maurice Green is going to fight for the belt. He's definitely fighting for the belt. It wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. We've had somebody every year that is not ranked fight for a title. It's happened.
That's true.
So, and I think heavyweight's the easiest road to get there right now. That's just my opinion. It's a hot take. I don't have sunglasses, but I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen.
I will lend you a little bit of credibility here. He is a very active guy. So if Maurice Green can string together some wins, it's not so far outside of the realm of possibility like I teased. But I agree with Drake. I think Macy Barber, it's the fast track. It's in front of all those ESPN people that you have in your United States of America that I just don't understand. Listen, these Canadian TSN viewers, they're really going to get a load of Macy Barber before that pay-per-view. But yeah, I think she's the one that you're banking on. Another one that I'm really high on that I haven't talked about, but I have again, and I keep saying feeding a fed horse, is Nazar Haqparast, but I think he's light years away at this point.
If Holly Holm beats Raquel Pennington, she's fighting Nunes at 145. We all know it. Quit acting like you don't know it. I also love that Craig, he gave us a Tito quote. You know, listen, you're either all in or you're all out, but if you're all out, you're all in. So listen, if Tito said that would have been clipped and shared on Twitter. We all know it.
What a way to end it. We can't go better than that. That's going to do it for the first episode of Off the Cuff. We are running out of time. This will happen every week. For Craig Allen, Kyle Steele, and Drake Riggs, I am Mike Heck. Enjoy UFC 246 Fight Week, everybody. We'll see you back on the show next week.